Good Saturday morning to y'all. I've had a lot of coffee. Hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for checking things out. Let's quickly go through and look at who we got around here. Oh, there's so many comments. Wow. Pete's talking about my new purple icon. Yep. Welcome, Captain Jack. Raven Wolf, good morning, sir. We got Captain Jack. We got stuff going on. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry. This is going to be, I'm going to keep it to an hour. Hey, watch this. See this? I just started a timer. And when that goes off, we're ending the live stream because I hate dissing people. So I'm doing something else. Robert, hey, man. Hi. Pierre, hello, sir. Captain Jack. Andre, worth it or not. Great channel. I'm just going to flip through all these. Michael, hello, sir. Excuse me. Captain Jack. Pedantic Dan, hello, sir. I'm just ripping through these. Walter from Detroit, awesome. I'll come back to these later, maybe. Yeah, I love music like that. Richard, Ken Parrish, hello, sir. Richard Lamb, hello, sir. And Captain Jack. I think we're kind of fun up. So I have the pleasure of introducing this awesome guy to you if you don't know him already. Check this out. This is Allan Williams. You may know him as Sound Speeds. I went to his IMDB page and holy crap, this guy has worked on Stuff Coming, TV series, Black Lightning, American Soul, all this stuff. Cobra Kai, which just showed up in my Netflix feed today. Affinity, War, Avengers, 31 episodes of The Walking Dead, Stranger Things, Spider-Man Homecoming, Halt and Catch Fire. This just goes on and on and on and on and on. In fact, if you want to go take a little peek-see, what I'll do is I'll just throw that into the comments. Boop. And you can go have fun looking at his IMDb page instead of, you know, doing stuff like doing this live stream. Anyway, over here is his YouTube channel, Sound Speeds, which unbelievably only has 7.6K subscribers. I have no idea why. This guy is a fountain of knowledge, and I'm gonna put that in here too. Boom. You should go subscribe to that channel like right now. And yeah, the guy's awesome. So I'm gonna dial him in. Allan Williams, Sound Speeds, awesome guy. He's helped me a lot. We'll get into that. Fire away your questions. We have 57 minutes left. Let's go find Allan. Where is he? Oh, there he is.
That's really weird, Kevin, because my timer shows a more realistic.
I can't see.
You know, it's blown out. Well, if it's blown out, then you won't be able to see. But it says closer to 8 hours and 19 minutes is probably how long this is going to last. It's really weird that you can't see that. Maybe I need to turn down my brightness a little bit. But does this show up any better? It's probably being more realistic.
Oh, there you go. No, this isn't a phone call. I'm training myself. I have to train myself to end these at 60 minutes.
Well, you got the wrong guy to help you train yourself,
in,
that's for sure.
They comment on these live. They're like, hey! When that goes off, I'm ending, theoretically. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go check some stuff out here.
Well, thanks for having me this morning, Kevin. Great to see you.
Absolutely, man. It is my honor. There's the IMDB page. You can go marvel at it. There's Allan's YouTube channel. You can go subscribe to it.
Or just youtube.com/soundspeeds works also.
Yes. I grabbed this link and it got munged.
I wish they would let you do the shortened vanity version of it, but YouTube doesn't give that out very often, which is really annoying. It's available for some channels, but not others. It's really weird.
Not really. Yeah, I went here and I think if you do youtube.com/soundspeeds. Anyway, enough blah blah. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out of your day. And if you guys have questions for this young man, definitely fire. Robert, I was a sound recorder boom operator for a feature film shot on Willie Nelson's ranch. Yes, I'm bragging. It was a blast, and I met Willie too. So tell me, Allan, you have done a lot of stuff, and I know in talking to you, you have more stuff coming up and scheduled.
Yeah.
This whole shutdown, Hollywood shutdown and everything must have just been not only a surprise like for most people, but what did you do? You must have been out of work, right?
Well, yes. And the reason why is because they call us non-essential workers. But I'll ask you, since you've been off and home doing nothing for months and months, what have you been doing? Watching TV and movies, maybe? So tell me how we're not essential. That's what I've been telling people, because I was on set on a show called Doom Patrol, which, a lot of the little credits that I do, the day playing and stuff like that, doesn't show up on my IMDb. But I was working on a show called Doom Patrol when the shutdown happened, and people were talking about it real quick. And, what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen and where's it going to go? But everyone's talking about there's going to be shutting down of America next week, except restaurants and key businesses. And we started seeing production shut down. We were hearing the rumor mill was going just going crazy, because people were like, well, we're shutting down here. We're calling this three episodes early on a season. And then Doom Patrol, we were in the middle of shooting the 9th episode of the season. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, we're going to scrap episode 10 for right now. We're just going to finish episode 9. And that's going to be where we call it for the season. So I believe that a lot of these shows are going to be coming back now that we're starting to open up Hollywood again. And they're going to be going back and finishing up the television shows and some of the seasons. And what's kind of cool is that a lot of the networks and the stations and the studios are realizing that they're lacking in content. And so one of the things that they're doing is saying, okay, we may just shoot the rest of the season or do this season and then go back to back into the next season. So if there was a show that was in the middle of progress, which I was not working on Stranger Things season 4, but I know they shut down part of the way through production. Well, they're going to be coming back and finishing that and then probably finishing. But other TV shows are probably going to come back, finish their season, maybe take a week or two break, and then start the next season. So that way, hopefully it doesn't throw off their schedule too much. Shows like Walking Dead normally started the first week of May, and they finished in Thanksgiving. It was like the week or two before Thanksgiving, when I was there at least. And now you run into, they haven't even started yet because the shutdown happened before they even opened their production office. So who knows what they're going to do? They could end up starting and going straight until about the time they're going to start season 12 or whatever. So it's really interesting how the whole Hollywood system is now coming back online and starting to put people back to work again. It's very interesting too. There's a lot of changes.
So you haven't been making any money. Is that true?
Well, other than the few dollars that YouTube pays us now for doing our content, you're right. It's it's been very, very skimpy. Like any odd jobs that I can do, that's the kind of thing but the film industry income is totally gone. That's for sure.
Wow. Hey, I have an idea. Ellen's probably not prepared for this, but I'm going to go for it. I finally figured out, because I know Captain Jack is going to say, or somebody else is going to say, well, how do you do this? And how do you donate to the channel? And blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'm going to do, because, I don't know. That link, which you'll find in the description below, and right there, if you want to throw something on the tip jar, which I think will show up. Oh, I can't point to him. I can't point in his room. In the middle of this
how about if we
thing
do
over
this?
here. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong side. Jeez.
It should show. I know, it's weird, isn't it? It should show up and go, and somebody donated or something like that. If you did, and it doesn't show up in a minute or two, let me know. But here's what we're going to do is anybody who leaves a tip on the channel, I'm just going to throw half to Allan. And
oh, great. Thank you.
Just for the heck of it.
Very appreciated.
Not as a handout. It's more a thank you to you. I've learned so much from you, man. Unbelievable. Allan is the guy, the one guy. I was having a problem with my live stream, and there was some weird stuff and cutouts and buzz, and I drove me crazy. I ripped apart the mark and to this and to that, to the blah, 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 and everything else. And he made me, by hand, an XLR cable cord that he sells. It's excellent. It's like, yeah. I plugged it in, ran it through here. I am actually running this XLR cable from here into the Mix Pre 3, and the one from the Mix Pre 3 goes down under, and it's wrapped under my desk amongst 180 and a 240 adapter for the computer, plus this, plus that. There's power and stuff running everywhere, and I plugged in this cord. It all disappeared.
Yeah. It's one of that's one of the luxuries you have of when you've been doing sound work for a long time. I started in sound in the mid 90s and have been doing, I think I did my first movie, I think in 2000, 2001. And then I forgot when it was released, but over the course of many years, you dial in on your procedure and how you like things to be. It used to be when I was a kid, I did not understand the value of cables. And so when I was editing my own projects, I was very concerned and curious at the same time as to why I was hearing radio stations faintly in the background of my sound. And it's because I was using the cheapest, most garbage Radio Shack cables I could get because I was a kid, had no budget. But when I realized that cables mattered, then I started to experiment with things, figure things out. When I was on set and I would start to have a buzz coming in on the mic, I was like, what's causing that? Oh, it's the cine tape that's coming from the top of the camera. What can we do to get rid of that? And I started doing a lot of research. Part of the cine tape would vibrate the enclosures of some microphones and the shell casing on some microphones. And if it had a floating ground especially, then it did not, ground that and drain that RF. So then I started learning a little bit about that. Then I started experimenting with cables. And then I started learning about additional things with cables and connectors. And the way I'm making cables now is not really changed in the past probably 5 or 6 years. The way I currently make them, if it's going to be in a boom pole or something, is slightly different than the ones I'm currently selling. But since you mentioned it, I just got through this morning releasing a video talking about the cables I'm selling. It was like a 2.5 minute long video, and I basically say that I'm selling them, and it's only going to be going on until the end of September, just because I have another show that's supposed to start up in early October. But if you're interested, I'm at least selling those cables again now and taking orders for them. So if you're interested, check that out.
Awesome. And I apologize while you've been talking. I've been there's a lag between when you speak and when the words come out. And I've been playing over here
with a delay.
I'm afraid to do something and have it die. My tutor, this guy, is going to come back at me after this live stream, and he's going to tell me all about this and what I should have done that he probably already told me to do, and I didn't. So please tolerate the out of sync audio on your end, or don't. I had a question. Let me run over here real quick. I had a question from was over on Twitter from one of my friends. Let me find this sucker. Here it is. Aha. There's nothing on here that's going to be bad if I show this, right? Nope. Here's the question. From Joe Lee, the video guy. What's the trick with keeping your arms held high, holding a boom for so long? Can short people become good operators? What's the most understood thing about being a sound guy?
Leave that on. Leave that on for a second, if you wouldn't mind, just so that way I could see him one more time. That's fine. If you could help me remember those questions. The trick to keeping a boom over your head, mainly because overhead miking gives you a much more realistic type sound. If I take a microphone and I put it right over here versus directly in front of my mouth versus coming up from underneath, acoustically, the sound changes. If it comes in from my chest, for example, the closest thing that you're going to be hearing is my chest cavity, which radiates a lot of bass. And so if you underboom, usually you're going to have a tendency of getting a lot of bass in there. If you come straight in from in front, like straight at you right now, if I came in right at my mouth with a microphone, it's going to dial mainly in on my mouth. You're going to hear all the mouth crispies and that kind of thing. But another thing you're going to be hearing is my chest within the pattern too. But you got to think about things with regards to energy level of sound. If I'm talking to you right now, you're hearing a combination, even though I'm speaking directly to you, you're hearing a combination of all the frequencies that make up my voice. As soon as I speak that way, your ears know what it sounds like to come in this way. However, because a microphone is directly over top of someone's head, it's going to exaggerate that to a certain degree because air dissipates sound. The lower frequencies that I push out of my chest right here, it's going to be more omnidirectional. It's going to fall off a lot quicker than the mids and highs will. But if you come in right here, then I'm going to be much closer to all of those frequencies, and it's going to sound much more natural. By the time you dial out, or your brain kind of adds and compensates for the amount of air between you and me as we're speaking, it sounds much more natural coming in from overhead. The big things you have to be careful of there is things like footfalls if someone's walking, because the microphone's pointed right at it and it's going to be down the barrel of the pattern. So then you have, clip, clop, clip, clop, and it's bad if you're having high heels or something on a linoleum floor on House MD, for example. And so those are some of the things that you have to be aware of with regards to that. But it sounds much more natural. As a rule, there are exceptions if you come in from overhead when you're miking. What were the other questions there, Kevin?
The second question is, can short people become good operators?
Absolutely. There's a guy who I believe is 5 foot. So actually, no, there's a woman I know who's 5'3", and she is a boom operator. Now you think 5'3", you're not going to be taller than very many people on set, and you're correct. But you got to keep in mind that a lot of the times you don't have to operate with your hands over your head.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you. Captain Jack just donated $10. Woo!
Awesome. Thank you, Captain Jack.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And it worked. It popped up.
Look at that. It did.
In Oregon.
It doesn't tell you have a new subscriber, but...
No. There's a joke there.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
This is a joke. Sorry. But you don't have to have your arms over your head to be a boom operator. That's one of the misconceptions and one of the things that a lot of people think, that a boom operator is the guy that holds the pole over your head. So usually if I refer to it, I say I'm the guy that holds the pole over someone's head. But in all honesty, being a boom operator is far more than just doing that. And even then, I will ask you, is it more comfortable for you to hold a microphone and a boom pole over your head from maybe 5 feet away from the actors? Or would it be more comfortable to hold it somewhere around here at your chest level and back up closer to 8 feet? Most likely, it's going to be a little bit more length on the cable, on the boom itself, but to actually hold it in a more comfortable manner. So most of the time, I will operate from right here. I will not necessarily go over my head. Now, there's exceptions. If we're doing a walk and talk and there's the camera operator and they're coming in with flags to block the light and people are bringing in lights and there's director walking with us and everybody else, somebody's going to jump in front of me and I'm going to have to go over my head, at least for part of it. If we're in a hallway, same kind of thing. If we're doing any kind of a thing on set and there's a camera that moves in front of me, I'll have to start here, then I'll go up, and then they'll go underneath me. But for the most part, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the time I'm on set, I don't have the boom over my head, and that's most of the time. I mean, probably even more so than that.
I guess here's a question for us.
And so just to pull it back around, can short people be boom operators? Absolutely. Because if you're standing still and planted, what's to say you can't stand on an apple box? Or what's to say you can't stand on a short ladder? Or the video that I'm going to be releasing next is going to be talking about an articulated boom segment. No one knows that yet. So you got the scoop. And I'm going to be talking about how I actually use that and have been using it for 2.5 years. And I show some examples from set and how and that kind of thing. So it's going to be kind of cool. But that is a very inexpensive tool that you can use if you want to have the boom come in from the height of a giant, let's say, but you don't even need to have your arms over your head to do it. It's really cool.
Wow. That's cool. I have a question too, but
sure.
We'll answer Joe.
Third part of his question, which is, what's the most misunderstood thing about being a sound guy? Good question. Or just pick one. Well,
probably 500.
Yeah, what's the single most? Sound people, we're a bit particular, but there's a reason for it. Like a lot of the professionals you run into on a set are particular about their jobs, but sound people usually have to become, I don't want to say cooler, but that's kind of the term that a lot of people say is sound people are usually the coolest guys on set. And it's not like cool, like Fonzie type cool, from Happy Days. It's more cool, like chill, cool, laid back, that kind of thing. And we have to be. Everyone on set is there for picture except one department, sound. And so we have to rely on and work with every single other department to do our job effectively. They don't have to work with us. I mean, the DP doesn't have to light with regards to sound at all. But if we want to be able to get good sound, we have to, say, hey, could you help us out with this? Can you flag this light off? Sure, we'll call in the key grip. Or we'll have ballast buzzing on an HMI, and we'll say, can you drop that into silent mode for this? Because we're running 23976. And they'll say, sure, no problem. And there's a whole bunch of little things like that, little tricks of the trade that we will have to work with other departments to do. The wardrobe department, for example, when we hide lav mics in clothing, we have to work with them and coordinate how that goes. Every single department on set we pretty much have to interact with.
Thank you. Look right there. Did you see that?
Awesome. I did. I saw that. I didn't want it to distract me.
Boom, Walter.
Thank you so much, Walter.
You rock. He's also a member of my YouTube community join.
Oh, very good.
Thing. Thank you. Cool. Thank you for that answer. Next question. Pete, if I miss some of your comments, I'm really sorry. I just am. I won't explain it because we have.
This is a great question.
37.
8 hours and 37 minutes and 24 seconds. Got it.
Before we end. XLR only, USB, or can you recommend a custom USB cable maker?
Okay, here's the trick. It's not necessary. You don't need to have custom-made USB cable. And here's why. A microphone that is USB has a built-in analog digital converter to convert the analog sound you hear into a digital signal. That digital signal is zeros and ones. That is affected totally different than an analog cable that would come out of like this microphone, for example, going through the XLR line. If you ran that over something that was going to be electrical interfering with it, it's going to affect it totally different. Digital noise is not going to happen because you run it over, over a bad cable. It may make it a little bit noisier in the line, but it's still going to be zeros and ones. It's going to be different than analog. So as long as your cable is, a decent one, you're not buying the dirt cheap one, the cheapest, $16, USB cable you find on Amazon that has to do with, that you bought from China or something like that, and it was sent overseas in 28 days. As long as it's just not one of those, you're probably going to be okay. You don't need to worry about custom-made USB cables as a rule.
That's
XLR
awesome.
cables, on the other hand, anything you cross over something with an electrical interference is going to electrically change that. And that's when noise would occur. So, yes.
I mean, stupid me. I admitted to it. By the way, Robert Shaver, Thank you. Long
Thank you, Robert.
time subscriber to the other. Thank you for the donation. Boom. I learned that when I allowed myself to be chastised. As you know, I have no sense of humor. I allowed myself to be chastised because once I found out it was the cable via Allan and I think someone else, I bought stupidly, I never do this, but stupidly, I didn't think about it. I pulled a $8 Amazon Prime something XLR cable. I didn't even think about
Basics.
it.
Yeah.
Basics. And so I saved some money. I don't know. What do you charge for your XLR cables?
I charge
like $3,000 or something.
Actually, no, they're $50. But that's for a 10-footer. And the reason why you may look at that and say, geez, that's so much for a cable. Compare that to a Mogami Studio, a Mogami Gold Studio, which is, I think, like $68, $67, something like that for a 6-footer. But here's the thing. They are using a similar cable to the one that I use. Their connectors, I don't believe, are nearly as good as the connectors I use. Because one of the advantages I have is I'm not going to just use stuff that's branded Mogami. I'm going to be pulling in the best components I've found that work the best over, from every single, walk of life I've ever encountered. So I can pull in these connectors, this cable, this, and then solder it all together and make it my way. So that's the reason why I'm doing it that way. And that includes, by the way, free shipping domestically in the United States. And that's USPS priority mail.
It was really cool. I think this is the cable.
It doesn't look. I can't tell that connector right there.
It says new trick. I don't think that's the cable. The other.
I was going to say the little button on it looks a little bit different. I can't. I don't want to unplug this thing live, but
this is another one. Well, that's what I was about to do. I was going to go, hey, check out this cable.
If you see this kind of design right here, this button design, that's a indicator right here of the kind of connector I use. That's not the exact thing, so if you look it up, you're probably not going to find this exact connector. But I think the cable that you're using there, the connector, it doesn't look like it's kind of this rounded, smooth look. It looks more spiky. One.
It has a black. It doesn't have the metal. Has a black something. Anyway, it's like $50. Wow, that's a lot to spend on a cable. I spent 3 hours. Was it 4 hours? Plus had problems doing a short 2-hour live stream, so 5 hours. Trying to figure out what was happening, and when I finally figured that out, was the cable. $50. Nothing. Plus, I'll never have to worry about. I say this all the time. If you can do it, do it. How does someone get to you and say, "I want a custom XLR cable"? Until whenever it is, September? How does someone
until
do that?
The end of September? If you are interested, then you can go and contact me through like any of the social media he has listed up there, or you can shoot me an email directly at Allan, which look at the spelling at the top of the name, ALLEN, at soundspeeds.us, not .com, but .us. And if you shoot me an email and tell me what you're interested in, I won't just make an XLR cable. If you're interested in a 150 ohm XLR dummy, for example, to measure the EIN of your sound gear, that's fine too. If you want a right angle connector, I can modify things and make things. There was a guy that last time I was selling the connectors, he asked me to make custom deity connect cables that were very small and low profile that he could go easily out of his deity connect system because he ran into a little bit of interference in his system. And I also made put a special kind of cable together for him that combination doesn't exist. You can't buy it. And it was extremely difficult to actually make that cable. I thought originally that I botched it once. I had to rebuy some of the supplies, and then I told him that it's going to be slightly delayed. I thought I botched it. It ended up being a fault in the design of the connector. But I was able to figure out a way to work around that, and he has working connectors. He's like, yeah, these are great. So, awesome. Yeah, I've trial and error a lot throughout the years, and this is the combination that I'm happiest with. But if you want to talk custom cables at all, let me know.
Cool. I haven't had a problem since, and at some point before the end of September, I'm going to probably be ordering a bunch of cables from Allan because That's why I bought my Mix Pre 3. That's why I bought this mic. That's why I have a Rode mic. Why I have certain DD mics. And this computer is because I finally, and yeah, if you don't have the money, I get it. But I finally went, man, and I started just buying the good stuff. And audio problems, out of the mix. Video problems, out of the mix. Mic problems, out of the mix. And I could just create stuff.
And that's what people say is, quality, if you get good stuff, then you don't have to worry about that. Was it you, Kevin, that said you're only as good as your weakest link in the chain? I've heard that before, but I think somebody recently said it in a video. And I can't remember who that was.
That's a cool quote. So I'll lie and say, yeah, that was me.
Okay. Well, cool. Cool. Then Kevin said it. And if not, I'm sure said it right before we were rolling. And that's where I heard it from. But, it's one of those things of, do you really want to be worrying about a cable that runs someplace? And I haven't really talked about it a whole lot. There is another YouTuber who I will not name who has, a silver play button just like you do. And he ordered 10 cables from me about 2 years ago when he was redoing the studio. And he did so because he was running into a bunch of issues. He had hired somebody to help him try to figure out and troubleshoot it down. He was having some issues still. And a lot of it was because he has a vocal booth that he routes all of his cables into, his power, his video, his sound, all in on this one thing. And they were all bottlenecking right there. And he was having some buzz issues. After he got those cables from me, no more issues. So if you happen to watch his videos, you'll always be able to tell that the little ring on the connectors right here that spins around on these connectors right here, if you look at that ring, you'll see it in different colors: red, green, blue, yellow, all these different colors that I made them, 10 different colors. And that is the only indicator. So if you happen to watch YouTube and you see people comparing microphones and you see two different cables that are identical except for that ring, could be because I made those cables for him. I won't say who that was. But he's a big he's a YouTuber, got a silver play button just like Kevin does here. Which, by the way, congrats and thumbs up too.
Hey, thanks. I don't know. On the one hand, I've worked my butt off for 8 years to get that. On the other hand, I look at some other channels and I'm like, they should have that.
Well, but it's one of those things where you're always going to look at something and there's going to be the one channel that goes viral and gets a silver play button because they uploaded a picture of someone laughing at a cat. And they monetize your channel off of a viral video that got 18 million views. And you're like, geez, are you kidding me? All the hard work that you do. And then people subscribe to their channels just to watch them upload another, vertical video, 17 seconds long, with someone's cat walking around. Well, and then it makes you like, oh, geez, why do I kill myself over these videos and deadlines and, spend hours and hours?
Fair enough. But on the one hand, these viral videos, as I cover in my YouTube course. Ready for a commercial break? Here we go. Commercial break is now over. That's a link. These videos go viral, and then if you look later, it's like 1 million, 500,000. Next video, 20,000, 1,000. Yeah. Then there's also some people who just go, cool, I found my audience. 30-second cat videos. They're shared. Someone watches them, etc. We don't need more cat videos. Good. Great on them. I'll just keep making stuff. There's more questions here.
Sure.
I just look away. Aha. Podcastage. Bandrew. If you are not subscribed to Bandrew's channel or his I'm Playing Music channel or following him on Twitter, you are missing out on some of the funniest, coolest, informative, awesome stuff ever. Go find him. Mouth Crispies.
One thing real quick, you mind if I say something about that real quick that's very interesting? There's something very amusing about looking down in your thumbnail, like you do and Bandrew does, and you're always smiling. You look at other people that have, that look straight to the camera and they're usually like, so I don't know what is funny about down below, but obviously you're going to get a great picture if you look down in your thumbnail and you're smiling.
What?
Did you not catch that?
No.
Did I cut out or something?
Wait, no.
I don't,
my brain
this little
cut out.
icon here doesn't smile or anything, but anyway.
Whatever. It's.
Can you increase your gain and demonstrate what mouth crispies are?
Mouth crispies. What are mouth crispies? Can you increase your gain and demonstrate what mouth crispies are? Thank you.
Oh, he's trolling.
Is he? Now see.
Next time I get Bandrew in Discord and we're just doing a one-on-one talk, I'll make sure he has every bit of the mouth crispies he ever wants to hear.
So you can tell between the both of you who the... I'm good at audio. I've dialed things in. I think I do okay. I don't hold a candle to these two. But that comment, I would look at it and go, huh. And I would try and explain mouth crispies and play with my gain while these two just laugh their butts off.
I'll answer the question, though. Mouth crispies, if you want to know what those are, if you want to know what mouth crispies are, you know how whenever someone comes up and whispers in your ear, how all you hear is every little pop of saliva and little crinkle of their lips. And it's worse when a kid does it. A kid comes up and they're trying to figure out what they're going to say in your ear, and they're just like, and you're like, driven crazy by the time the kid finally says, and you're like, say it, you're killing me here with all this little, pops and noises. If you get very close to a microphone is going to pick those up. So people that put a microphone right in front of their face and they talk into it really close miking, your microphone picks up all of those little crispy noises. We refer to those as mouth crispies. So that's what Bandrew's referring to. He's trying to get me to get way up on the microphone and make all those crinkle noises, which would not, in my case, sound like ASMR at all. And, but there you go.
By the way,
he's trolling is what he's doing.
That comment I just put in is Bandrew's channel. Bandrew says podcast.
Yep.
You really need to subscribe to that too.
Yep.
And Allan's sound speeds. People. Let's look at the next comment. Question. Robert Shaver, how do you avoid sounds caused by your handling the pole? Do you wear headphones so you can hear pole-induced noises?
Okay, great question. Handling noise is what you're talking about on a boom pole. First of all, if you use a better brand of boom pole, a K-Tech, a PSC, an Ambient, Panamic, VDB, Loon, something along those lines, you're probably going to have a lot less handling noise issues than you would if you get something like a Rode, a Rycote, some of these other brands. But there's also different qualities within each one of those brands. Some brands like K-Tech will have a more discount line, like the Avalon, Avalon aluminum poles, and then they also have the Avalon graphite poles. But then they also have their more premium classic poles. And so, depending on the quality of the pole itself, that will matter. Now, one thing I will also tell you is don't skip out on the cable you put through them, because if you get a cable that, like, I'll demonstrate. This is the cables that I made. Hear how I'm rubbing this cable and it's making no noise? If you grab your headphone cable and you do that, you will probably hear sound transmitting through that if you do this. And that's simply because of the vibration that goes through there. Better cables have more mass to them, and they are more resilient to that. So you don't need to worry about it nearly as much. But you'll hear this a lot quicker than you'll hear this if you use a good cable. I mean, you'll hear me tapping this thing. But if you use a good quality cable inside of your boom pole, you're going to have a lot less issues, number one. Number two is it all has to do with isolation. Kevin jokes about the fact that he asked me a simple sound question about a shock mount at one point, and because I was hyped up on ZipFizz at the time, I completely answered the question in like 25 minutes. But in truth, you want isolation. If a microphone is suspended someplace and you can strain relief that cable loop that goes to the shock mount so that there is minimal opportunities for movement there, it's not taut like a guitar string because that makes noise. And if it's not too loose, otherwise it's going to hit something like the side of the shock mount. But if it is just enough and strain relieved, you're adding a little bit of of a like Kevin right now, touch the cable on your SM7B, the actual microphone itself that goes from the connector up to the microphone. Yeah, that little pigtail there is an isolation. It's a little bit of an isolator to help with that.
Oh, I see.
So that right there, that little pigtail is one of those things that you can kind of build into the end of your boom pole going to your shock mount. Now, as for handling noise from your hands, some people, depending on the brand of pole that you get, will have issues with the interactions between the oils on your hands or how dry your hands are and the pole itself. So it's good when you're looking for a boom pole to find a good combination that works. Like, for example, if I grab a VDB pole, my hands don't slide at all on a VDB pole. They're very, very shiny, have a high gloss to them. If I try to slide my hands, it squeals like I'm trying to, like, you know, when you were a little kid and it was 100 degrees outside and you tried sliding down a slide, you know, one of those slides that were metal, and it basically was like a griddle on your legs and bottom. That kind of sound, if you can remember that, that's the way my hands sound if I slide up and down a VDB pole. It just is that squeal noise. It drives me crazy. On an ambient, which is my favorite brand, my hands can slide all over the place and you won't hear anything. So you can wear gloves if you want to. Some people swear by cotton gloves. Some people swear by, you know, all kinds of different. Yeah, you see how high gloss that pole is? They make great poles, no question about them. But here's the thing. That right there, that kind of material will actually catch on my fingers really aggressively, and I can't slide my hands very well. And there's also a technique that you do where you don't just instantly go from here to sliding. Well, I'm not on the screen anymore. If I'm like here and I instantly start sliding my hand, your hand is going to stick a little bit to the pole. So what I usually do is I start to rock my hand to release it. Where that pressure sits on there, there's going to be a slight little build up of moisture. You know, so what you'll want to do is go from here, rock, in order to release that moisture, and then you can slide your hand and try to have your hand touch the pole as little as possible during that movement. So don't hold your hand completely down the pole and slide it. Instead, you know, just lay it here or do some little tiny movement to slide the pole, and you're not going to have any issues. So it has to do with the isolation from the shock mount, has to do with the cable, and it has to do with your ability to actually handle the microphone itself. And after a while, once you've been doing it for a while, it's second nature and you don't even think about it. I'll slide my hands all over the place in the middle of a take. You'll never hear any of it.
Awesome. 18 minutes. I'm going to do this for once. Let's rip through these. Kevin, that's pointless. I don't know what you're referring to. I disagree.
I think it's hilarious that he chose me to be the person that he tries to stick to an hour with, because
that's
just
why.
yesterday we jokingly talked on the phone for a little bit. I said, this is going to be a 5-minute phone call. And by the way, I only have 4 hours and 20 minutes of battery power left before my phone dies. That was how we pretty much started the conversation.
And if you didn't have to go because you had some things.
You mentioned that you had to go too. And I was like, okay, I'm going to actually hold this to it. Yeah, it was over 3 hours long.
All right. Okay, now this is important. You got a guy here who knows a lot. I'm going to disagree with Allan here. If you want to actually have good audio, you need to buy $10,000 USB cables. Get it right, Allan. Quit lying. Now, what would be even funnier? That's funny. I love this guy. You got to watch this guy's videos. You will.
He's gotten a lot more funny throughout the years as he's gotten more and more subscribers. He's gotten a lot more comfortable in front of the camera. He laughs, he jokes, he's really funny.
When this pandemic thing is over and I feel safe, there are some people I am going to go visit, and he's one of them.
No, he's
Lucky
not.
Him.
He's not, because every time I say, Banjo, you know what? I need to come out there and shoot an episode of the BSP. He doesn't respond to my messages for the next half a day. I'm like, Banjo, you still there? You still there? I mean, it's like, you know, he is reclusive. He hides, and even some of us people that know him, you know, well, I'll say, you know, hey, let me come out there and we'll shoot something. He'll vanish. It's like,
yeah,
you know. Now, Kevin, I'm sure you would be different if I was out in your neck of the woods and I called you. You said, "Oh, you know, let's meet up, let's hang out." But Bandrew is not that way. He would
right now.
He would vanish quicker than anything if you even,
Right now, I'd be like, stay away from my house. Well,
yeah,
and rightly so, Bandrew, because I would go over there and I'd have to be escorted because I see all those Marshall amps and guitars and stuff, and I might.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he has a security person that would have to meet you someplace, do the whole FBI bag over your head, drive you all over the city, with headphones on. Yeah, he would do all that stuff, and then you would. Once you're inside, you would not be able to leave without escort, that kind of thing.
That's right. I got a rip. There's a lot of comments here. Here we go.
And
Mogami,
you're right, Andrew. Mogami does use Neutrik connectors, but I'll ask you this. Do they sell different connectors? If you really want to get into it, they make MX, they make MXX, they make FX, FXX connectors. Those are just the X or the XX series. They also make variations of each one of those. So there's, it's not just one. It's not like if you talk about buying, Kellogg's, whatever brand, just name a brand of cereal. There are also generics of those, but not the brand name. But is there different brands? Is there different variations of that? You may have the Rice Krispies, the Cocoa Krispies, the other versions, but still Rice Krispies, or the, different flavors, I guess you could almost say, of the Neutrik connectors. And that's, cool. and I dialed in early on one that I believe is to be the most of them all.
All right. 14 minutes. I'm going to rip through the comments. Unless there's a question, I'm going to rip through them. What's up? Oh, Outback Outlaw. This guy is now watching. I don't know what time it is where he is, but he's like, it's early. Thank you for joining us.
That's a cool thumbnail.
Captain Jack. Is Allan's comedy show here all week? Yeah. Should watch some of his videos. They're awesome.
I'm a nut. Catch me in a live stream.
Cool.
You'll hear me go in a tirade for no reason.
Yep. That's how you get cables or other communication.
Yep, right
there. Ahoy there. Cool. Michael, Allan, I'm curious about the booth you're in. Can you tell us a little about it and maybe show us a wider view? He has a video on building this.
Yeah. If you go to my YouTube channel and you do a search for Studio Upgrade, if you just, on sound, or go to YouTube and just type in Sound Speed Studio Upgrade, it will explain everything. It'll explain the basic garbage background I had up here before. It'll tell you the reason why it was that way. I'll talk about the upgrade, and you'll see me build it in a time lapse, and you'll hear me talk about it, and you'll see this whole thing come to life, and you'll hear a test at the end as well.
Here is. Boop, 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 boop. Wow, I'm doing good today.
But thanks for asking, Michael.
There is a link to the video that will show up on the screen. Let's keep going. Next comment. Yeah, thanks for asking, man. I need a custom USB cable for my Lighthouse foghorn. Oh, there's a link, commercial, to YouTube Academy course, $500 off.
Kev loves you, $500 off.
If you don't. Every YouTuber needs to get a ham license so they can know what the heck is RFI and how it affects the studio. Yeah, that's true.
Hey, you want to know? You want to know something else you can do a search for? Do a search for Sound Speeds RFI EMI, and I talk about it. I even do a demonstration live by opening up XLR connectors and then hot swapping the wires and connectors on the cables on the inside there to change it out and you can hear how the sound changes. So do a search for Sound Speeds RFI, and you'll hear how to reduce and eliminate RFI and EMI. Gotcha. I see, Andrew. The big question I'm wondering about is how many other people have laughed when they've done the same thing.
Wow. That is the best comment ever. Green Apple here. Yeah. What's this? Hey, Kev. Don't need to read this to the audience. Uh-oh. To the audience.
Don't need to read this to the audience.
This one, you will see major audio sync is talking right now.
I don't understand what
gear and
Green Apple Cure means.
Go away. Apple box.
That a Snow White reference?
Oh, no. The Green Apple Cure. I covered this. I was talking to a pro voiceover person
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're
For
talking
example,
about now. I see.
Smackies.
Oh, you're talking about mouth crispies. Going back to the mouth crispies.
Smackies.
And
I'm
that's something to do with the acids in the apple that will kind of reduce some of the frothing and stuff out of your mouth. Yeah, there's a bunch of different videos you can look at online that give really cool tips and tricks to that.
Cool. 10 minutes.
If you want to dry up your mouth, you can also do the cinnamon challenge.
Oh no, not gonna happen.
That'll dry your mouth out real quick.
Rob says, "Hey, Kev, you don't need to read this to the audience," which I'm now doing. Sorry. Last week's live stream and this one, you will see major audio sync issues. Talking right now about quality gear and audio problems go away. Yes. What happened was I didn't, like on Skype, we were fine. And then we ran out of time. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I started this and I didn't have time to sync this up. Like I said, the audio guy or the guy, excuse me, is going to come back and he's going to beat me down for not listening to what he said, which is testing it on YouTube and adjusting the audio sync on my end to make sure that Allan doesn't do that. My bad. But yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Brandon, longtime subscriber. Hello, sir. I think that's Bander's channel. Oh, man, I got a rock. Ahoy there. Eat a green apple. Mouth Krispies.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are the blue wrenches? The blue wrenches are when someone comes in, and I usually know them, is I set them to a moderator, which means you can boot people. Don't even think about it. But mainly I found out when people need to paste links, like when I'm on a live stream and I'm like, hey, give me a link to your YouTube channel, and they can't. So I just make everybody a moderator. I just went through and made Bander a moderator and a few other people. Continuing on. Mouth Krispies. Should we be concerned that Allan is in a cage? Has he committed some boom crime?
Dipped into the frame once too many times, I'm sure.
Awesome. Well, it's a Faraday cage. Then he can certainly take... Oh, well, that's kind of a cool idea. He can take the RFI seriously.
It would probably double as a very weak, because these are too much. And I can tell you that even when I bring the whole thing around, I still get a great signal on my phone. So it's not a very effective Faraday cage.
Sweet. It's funny. Just as you said that, I heard something go boop. Nah. Freaking Murphy bastard. Well, my boom pole and cable are cheap. I have a Rycote blimp and mic mount. By the way, I do this as a hobby, so I'm not getting paid. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No harm in that, man. No harm in that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I started doing the same thing. You experiment with stuff, you get more experience, you get better gear, you get better at everything. So,
When were you pointing at the donation announcement? I don't know. I was...
When it came in?
This is Robert, about 10 minutes ago or something. He did a donation, and I was pointing at it.
See, I would do that.
It popped up, and
I might have to do it that way.
Well, he was talking and saying something really important. So freaking rude. Let me keep going. When were you pointing? We did that podcast. Allan's response, no, he's not. Just cracked me up so much. Selton, hello, sir.
I do the same thing in my live streams. I'm 20 minutes behind all the time. Yeah. And I'm like, someone joked to me in my last live stream and said, by the way, you have a booger hanging out of your nose. And by the time I saw the comment, I was like, really? And I was like, oh, well, geez. And then he was laughing and said, I was joking. And I was like, oh. And then, I only saw it 20 minutes later. He said, we could have said anything to you. And I'm like, you could have.
Selton, while we are here, Dad, Selton and I, we have this thing. He started calling me dad. I started calling him son. Whatever. I'm not his dad. Thank God. Just joking. Can you please ask him the importance of boom in Hollywood? Before we finish, oh man, we got a rip. We got 6 minutes.
Let's reset the time.
I do have a question for you. So while you answer this, I'm going to flip through these comments on the screen.
Okay. Think about this. If you have a microphone that's a lav on someone, it's a little bitty tiny piece of micro technology that fits underneath someone's clothes. That's going to be susceptible to clothing noise. It's going to not, be on axis if someone turns their head. It's basically connected up to a small little transmitter that transmits. There's potential cable noise and polling and stuff that's going to happen with that cable. There's a whole bunch of factors that will happen with it. If you plant a microphone on a desk or something, same kind of thing. I turn my head away, I stand up, I go out of the reach of that microphone. A boom is a full-size microphone with a full-size diaphragm in the hands of a technician that knows how to use it, that will follow actors and stuff everywhere, whatever they do on set. Now, unless there's an issue with lighting, or there's smoke, or there's a reason for having to use a lav or a plant like a wide shot, it's going to give you better results. That's just hands down. Mm-hmm. And if you're worried about background noise, which used to be the thing, I'm gonna just play the lav because there's lower background noise on that. This day and age, Post is most likely going to redo your mix anyway, and especially in those circumstances. And if that's the case, they're probably going to be able to dial that back in, dial out the background noise on a boom track easier or better than, and give you better results than they would a lav, because there's more fatness to the signal to actually work with there.
Okay.
And there's rules that boom operators have to follow if there's heavy noise and stuff like that. I won't get into that, though. I do have a series called 3BO, Building Better Boom Operators. So there's a lot of videos, like over 20 videos in that series. If you go to my YouTube channel, click on playlists, Building Better Boom Operators. So you want to know how this guy does his job?
Sweet.
There's a lot of tips and tricks in there, hours and hours of video footage, and it's still an ongoing series. Probably need to do another video in that series sometime soon.
Cool. We got 4 minutes.
Are booms ever counterweighted? There is K-Tech makes modular boom poles, like if you get the classic series, and they do sell the Hodges counterweight, which I think is like 700 grams as a counterweight. That's something you can unscrew and put on the end of it, but that's the only one that's sold for a brand right now.
Here's an interesting question. What's this? Can we vote to extend this fantastic conversation? Oh, man, you're killing me. I'm trying to practice ending a live stream after 60 minutes. You know what I'll do? I'll say it's the end, and we'll go 5 more minutes, but that's it. But I got it.
Just for subscribers.
This thing's going to chime at me.
We'll go longer just for the subscribers to your channel. If you're not subscribed to Kevin's channel, click off right now because it ends. Your entertainment and education ends now.
That's
if
terrible.
You're still subscribed to Kevin, then you can continue to watch. That's the rules.
What an awesome thing. Now, yeah, the lag from answer makes humor difficult. Sorry, dude. I'll work on that. Or, yeah. I can't seem to get rid of wind noise when video recording while sailing on a tiny point. Lav mics don't work.
Oh, yes. Lavs, you have to Captain Jack, you have to think about what exactly you're trying to overcome here. If you have a lav that's exposed outside to wind, then the little bitty wind protection options that usually come with lavs, those are usually fairly inexpensive. You need like, we don't ever use those things in the film industry. There are options that we'll use if we have heavier duty wind. Obviously, if you put, a lav underneath clothing, that's going to help. But then you could put an overcover from Rycode on. An overcover will actually help quite a bit. I think it's Bumblebee that also sells like a little puffball looking thing that fits on top of it if there's heavy wind. So if you're talking about lavs, there are things you can do. And I tell you what, shoot me an email and tell me exactly what your issue is. And if you want to, shoot me a couple of videos that you've done where you've heard wind noise, and I'll gladly help troubleshoot it down and make some recommendations for you. Awesome.
Just send money. Rob's having a hard time. He's got a good sense of humor. Alarm is about to go off. Yeah, in 1 minute and 46 seconds, which means I'm going to ask a question that I think I know. Gotten in trouble, but I think this will help others. Because most of us are either doing this, or we're standing in front of a camera, and we're doing this. If I'm sitting in my studio, and I'm going to hang boom a mic over me, I've noticed, and me accidentally, sometimes people have it pointing here, sometimes they have it pointing here, and sometimes having it pointed towards the chest area.
Yep.
What is your recommendation? You would know this.
Well, here's what I'll say. Listen. Every single microphone is different. And it's one of those things that if you have a brighter microphone, a Shep C-Mint 5U, for example, it's a bright mic. In that case, I'm probably going to go more straight down or come out and try to angle more at the chest. I'll still get their mouth just fine because that thing pulls in like crazy. But it's a very bright sounding microphone to me. And so I'm going to try to get as many of those bass frequencies as I can out of it. If I'm talking about directly overhead booming, for a live stream, for example, if Kevin were to do it, I would put the microphone out in front. I'd angle it back towards probably to 45, because a lot of the times people who do live streams, they'll tilt their head downwards or turn their face in some direction. And here's the thing, if your face is this way and your microphone is directly on top, you tilt your head this way, angling downwards, you're now booming the back of your head. If you are putting it a little bit in front like this, someone's face is this way, they tilt downwards, you're still going to be on axis. Another thing about angling forward is if someone turns their head, you're also potentially going to be able to get them on the edge of that pattern as their face turns this way or that way. So if it's straight overhead, someone turns their face away, you're off axis. Turns your face this way, you're off axis. You tilt your head down, you're off axis. So, like I said, reset that thing. My timer is going to be much more accurate. Trust me on that one.
Stop. Well, I have an idea. I'll make you a deal. Okay, here, let's pretend we're ending now. Because I would actually, right now, I'd go, thanks, blah, 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 blah. And I would just go into the end. So I think I got this. Thank you for playing. I think I could do this on my next live stream. But I'm not going to, because this guy, I pointed the right way. It's too interesting, and I have more comments and stuff. But thank you for answering that. Yes, a while ago, didn't know. As you saw, I posted a video today that basically goes, here's how I make a YouTube episode from, I wonder what I'm going to do today, all the way to the end. And I always look up, because sometimes things move around. It's like a ghost here or something. And a while ago, I accidentally had the boom pole too far extended, and I was all set up, and then I was sitting there, and I moved a little bit, and I listened to the audio, and basically it was taking the top of my head.
Yeah, top of your head.
Thank you. I think that's useful. Look up. Like, see where your boom pole is.
Yeah, but also, don't be afraid to angle it at a 45 towards you. Got to keep in mind that pattern, even though detail falls off when you get too far off axis, you're still going to have a good area of that pattern that if you tilt your head down or if you step in or out, you're still going to be within that pattern for the most part. I mean, unless you're pretty bad.
I'm doing 10 more minutes, then we are ending. Just to let you know, thank y'all. I'm throwing it in there. We don't need money. He's doing fine. I'm doing fine. I just thought it's cool to throw Allan some money. And me, I'll spend it on crap. Okay, because we got more stuff. Just send money. Well, that's funny. That happened before, and I just did that thing. Click the like button to extend the live stream. I am subscribing again then.
Oh, cool, that's an idea. Think about that. How many likes do you have right now, Kevin?
I have no idea.
How many likes from this video?
The way I stream is once I have, because I got to go through this streaming setup sometime. It's going to be awesome, especially when you see my OBS course. I'm not running YouTube right now at all. It's gone. Web pages are gone. Not running it. I'm doing everything in OBS. I'm commenting in OBS. I'm doing everything. Okay, here's an idea that I have for you. Right now, you have 16 likes. I say we go 16 minutes over. 17 minutes. No, I say then if we get like 40 likes, no. There's 23 people watching right now. There's 23 people watching right now. You're up to 20 likes now. So we could go 20 minutes. We could go 20 minutes, and you know, there's 23 people watching. No, the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to be 23 minutes over. But then, let's see, then it breaks. Here's what I have to practice. When I can run a live stream perfectly, more or less, and not do things like set up a person who comes in on Skype and it's all laggy. I tried fixing it. I'll get to it later. And when it doesn't fail, and I can train myself not to look over at the comments like other people do and go, oh, there's more comments, and ended at 59 minutes or something, that's when I'm going to bring my live streams over to my main channel. And until then,
okay,
I'm not.
I'm going to throw something out to you real quick, Kevin. You had 14 likes on this video. As soon as I mentioned the whole subscribe, as soon as I mentioned likes will equal the number of minutes that we extend this, 23 people watching, 23 likes.
But see, here's the other thing. No, I don't care. That's why I made the Unscripted channel.
Guys,
I don't care how long my videos are. I don't care how many likes they get. It's not monetized. I'll never monetize this channel. I don't care. I mainly made it for university members.
I tried.
So I don't care.
Dad is unreasonable.
Maybe we'll handle a question and let you blah, blah, and I'll go get some more coffee.
I'll just keep talking and not let you cut me off.
What?
I said, I'll just cut you. I'll just keep on talking and not let you cut me off. That'd be great.
I know.
We'll just do that.
Yeah,
you got any other subscribers or other questions?
Oh, yeah, we do. Oh, my gosh, look at all these comments. Now I'm going to whine. You guys aren't helping me practice. I watch other live streams. And I'm not even offended. They go along. It's like 59 minutes. Okay, that's all we have today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. They just stop, and I look over and I see comments, and I'm like,
Kevin, isn't it one of your things that you even suggest people don't look at other YouTube channels and try to copy them? And you say, do your own thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Why are you going to try to copy someone that says, I'm going to stick right to 59 minutes and I'm going to log out of this thing? And
no,
you're breaking your own rules.
No, your argument falls apart immediately. That would be like saying, why do I use a microphone like other YouTube channels? Okay, that sucked. Never mind. Let's go to the next question.
It's like trying to talk to my wife. I'm wrong. Second I open my mouth. Do boom operators get back problems? Of course. Usually the shoulder, if you boom the wrong way, it's very easy to get yourself all messed up. I mean, with takes getting longer and longer, constantly you're holding holding the pole, and it's going to, you hold it in certain ways, it's going to give yourself back strain because you're not designed to do this. If you hold it over your over your head, then you're going to end up usually having rotator cuff issues with your shoulders. One of my friends who's the boom operator that did Michael Bay movies ever since back to Pearl Harbor and probably before that, he ended up having some shoulder surgery recently. There's another boom operator friend of mine in LA. He has shoulder issues. There's a lot of the times boom operators will have a career length about 20 years before they're going to have some sort of a health issue that's going to end their career early, or they could end up having that issue if they're not doing things correctly, or even if they are doing things correctly, things can happen. And you can end up having issues that take you down for 6 months. So, it's one of those things that absolutely we run into a lot of health issues. But the big thing is you got to work on your agility. You got to work on your stretching. You got to try to do things in the most comfortable way possible. And that's going to extend your careers.
Cool. We got, this is a good one. From Captain Jack. Allan, do you work out in the gym? Probably hasn't lately. To build up your arms for boom operating. Now, before you answer that, let me take a shot at this. And I'm going to be completely wrong because I'm not a boom op. I have a C-stand with a really long boom pedal with my mic setting.
Bet it doesn't work out, does it?
And that C-stand gets stronger every time. I'm going to take a shot at this and say you don't really, maybe you go to the gym. You don't do exercises for your arms because doing what you do, look at me, is exercise and builds your arms up. How is that?
You are actually more on the money than you think. A lot of boom operators I know will stretch and they'll do, light workouts and that kind of thing. Usually I keep myself busy when it's not a pandemic. I will go from show to show to show to show to show, back up, back up, back up. I mean, and so I barely get any time off. And when you're doing it every single day, your muscles are being worked. You're keeping loose. You're keeping, everything going. So, weekends will give you enough time to repair those muscles, but you're pretty much on the money. Personally, I don't ever work out my arms or do any kind of, that kind of thing, because I work almost constantly, not in the past 6 months. And my wife and daughters have even been concerned about that going back. But then I told them, you think that I take my arms over my head, don't you? You don't understand. I don't need to a whole lot. And yes, I can easily and probably will, just to start the process again. I know I have a show coming up that's supposed to start on Columbus Day, October 12th. As soon as I get ready to start that show, I'll probably do some light things just to get back into the flow of, push-ups and that kind of thing. But as soon as I start the show again, I'll be back to tip-top shape real quickly.
I imagine it's like somebody who shovels stones or rocks or something at a quarry. They're not going to work out. They're already working out.
Yeah, I mean, you develop the muscles. Yeah, you develop the muscles for that. So,
can you share with us? And if you can't, you can't. What show you have coming up where you get to go back to work and what that show
Black Lightning
is?
Season 4. Black Lightning Season 4 is the show that I'm scheduled to go back to. Now, before the pandemic, I actually had 3 shows backed up, back to back. The first one was actually...
1 second.
Okay.
I am going to go grab something to drink because apparently we're just going to keep going. So I want you to talk about this and what you're doing and the shows and everything else. And I'm going to be back in 5 minutes. We're just going to let it roll. You're just going to see
just
nothing.
Completely let me blab. Okay.
Please,
I'll take over the stream. No problem.
Take over the stream.
Take yourself off the screen then. Just put it full screen on me. I'll take over the stream. No problem.
Oh, I don't have that.
You can come in and hit disconnect on it at some point. That's fine. If only I had a way to control the questions. But
you can read the comments, can't you?
I had a pilot that was supposed to start in mid-March, and it canceled as soon as the pandemic started. And then afterwards, I had another TV show that involved wrestlers that was supposed to start up, and we were in the negotiations for that, and it was going quite well. And then I was supposed to be starting Black Lightning Season 4 right after that. That was what was going on then. Now it is totally a different thing. Now it looks like Black Lightning is going to be coming back for Season 4. The production office starts and opens this upcoming Monday, and then it's going to be usually about 5 or 6 weeks before the show will actually start. So that's what I'm supposed to be going back to. And I'm interested to seeing if we're going to be going back to back into another season, because technically shows are potentially going to be doing something along those lines to not get too backed up on the stuff that they do on their channels, on their stations, on their networks and movies. Some shows are going to have to feel it out and see how well they go. I know Cobra Kai, for example, they shot a year and a half ago, and it was supposed to have been out by now. It should have been out by, what was it, May or so, in order to maintain the regular schedule, but it didn't. It looked like it was going to be farther back than that because they didn't start promoting it. And so when that show is finally released, as Kevin said, Netflix just got through popping it up on Cobra Kai is now on Netflix. They got bought over. A lot of the original content that was on YouTube Premium has now transferred over to Netflix. So Netflix has now offered Cobra Kai seasons 1 and 2. You just have a Netflix subscription. You can go check those out. And then if you do that, at some point they're going to drop a season 3 on you. And it's going to be really awesome. Now, one thing that YouTube did do regarding season 1 of Cobra Kai is they started advanced notifications of it, putting together a little bit of things. Before season 2, they started doing it even more. They started taking little clips of the show and little teasers and putting together things and what was your favorite thing and, remember Karate Kid and all that kind of thing. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with regards to a lot of shows going forward, Black Lightning being one of them, because it very easily could take us straight. They could say, when we wrap in March or April, whenever it happens to be, they could end up saying we're going to do another season. Another thing these TV shows need to think about is that the cost of COVID-19 and getting a show up and going, there's going to be additional costs that have to do with the production because of that. One thing that we've never had before in the film industry is sick leave. But one of the things that they have now is the pod system. So just to set it up and to explain how it works is I'm in the sound department. So I would be probably considered to be part of the sound pod. So if anybody in my pod, which is considered to be people that I would mostly interact with, if I get sick with COVID-19, anyone that's in my pod will be sent home instantly for sick leave. In the past, we've never had sick leave or sick pay, but they've now started to do that in order to encourage people who get sick not to come to work and potentially spread it. Because what usually would happen is people in the film world would get going nonstop, and then they would say, geez, I'm sick, but I don't want to stop working. I just love what I do. And if I do that, I don't get paid for it. So I'm going to go on in, even though I have a little cough, I'll just take some over-the-counter cough medicine and I'll be fine. COVID's changed that, at least temporarily. And people are now starting to acknowledge that if we bring an illness to set, everyone's going to get it. So the pod system would send me home if somebody in my pod got sick. But then, being that I'm a boom operator, I would be on set. So there's a rule that like they have in LA, for example, which is 6 feet, 10 minutes. So if you're within 6 feet of someone for over 10 minutes, you're considered to be exposed. And if that's the case, and sometimes it's 15 minutes, depending on where you are regionally. But if I'm on set, not in the sound pod, but if I'm on set right next to a dolly grip, right next to the first AC, right next to a camera operator, and the actors are very close to me too, then I could be considered exposed to the camera people who, even though they're on set, if somebody who's off set ended up getting, in the camera pod got sick, I could end up getting sent home because I'm next to those people and I was exposed to them. And if an actor gets sick with COVID-19, they would probably shut down the entire show. But the actors pod, in many circumstances, is also the same one that the directors, producers, and everybody are in as well. So if an actor gets sick, we're probably going to have to shut down the show for a couple of weeks while the actor recovers or we see what happens there. But with regards to COVID compliancy, that's something that we all have to kind of be aware of and know what's going to happen. And with regards to that, there is additional costs that happen on set too. They're going to check your temperature. If you're overly hot, they're going to say you can't come in. If they have PPE they have to provide. They have extra distance things they have to apply, sanitation things that they have to start putting into effect. All of those things cost money. And another thing is they slow down the show. So we're not able to go 5,000 miles an hour and get through things anymore. If you have people that are in areas that have to be isolated and you have to go through certain checkpoints to get places and to do things, then it's going to potentially take longer, which could make our days longer, or because they acknowledged finally, at least as I heard in some of the original talks they had, that they understand that sleep is a big thing to healing up from illness. So our 12 to 18-hour days that they usually throw at us, and many studios now are capping it at 14 hours. If they do that to us, then they realize that we're going to be overly tired when we come in the next day. So what a lot of shows are doing is looking to potentially cut back some of the hours and to maybe make it between 10 and 12 hours a day. Don't know if that's going to happen, but an 8-a-day television show that would be budgeted for 12 hours a day for 8 days could end up suddenly becoming 10 to 11 hours a day for 9 days on some shows. It depends. We're going to kind of see how things go forth with regards to compliance and that kind of thing. But that's going to cost more money. That's my whole point in this. And we're going to see going forward if people are craving the content and wanting to watch the shows enough to counter the amount of money that people would end up spending for COVID compliancy in addition to the rest of the show. So is the cost going to be enough that it's really going to create a hindering on the profits of the show? Or is that going to even affect the ability of a show to come back if they say, this has just been too much work, our show is extended on too much, too long, we've had to drop a scene every single day, so we're going to have to bring in a splinter unit not for 1 day, but for 3 days. That's drawing our budget way out. We're overboard in this. So it could end up affecting things. Another thing to consider is that I'm not a cheap technician. There's a lot of people that are working on the bigger shows that are not cheap as well. And if we are going to have to suddenly wear masks and face shields and everything else, and they have zero tolerance for us not wearing them properly, that also takes us time. So that's going to start dragging out the day as well. And if you want me to wear all this gack and stuff for myself, that's fine. But as soon as the show requires it to be a certain way, or else we're fired, then that has to be dialed in exactly right before we can do a take. If something happens, if during the middle of a take my mask gets misadjusted, I have to say, hold on 1 second here, I got to adjust the mask. Okay, now we're ready again. Let's go. It's going to drag out your days a little bit in some small little minor ways. Those are just a couple of examples of things that could happen. Wow. So, blah, blah, blah. I've been blabbing away, and
I just realized I should just...
Kevin took his union break.
I realized I should just do this. Hook someone up. Figure out how to do this full screen. You know.
If you could give me access to your comments, man, you could just step away and come back 3 hours later and like, you're still here? Kevin was part of a live stream that I did where I started it off with Michael Wynn, and Curtis Judd popped in after about half an hour. He was there before that. And we jokingly said, Curtis, you should join us. And so we sent him a link. He said, sure, let me get set up. We joins the link. We shoot Bandrew a link too. And we were talking about film stuff that's out of his area of expertise. So he popped in for a little bit, but then he bailed. And then after a while, because it was so funny, just us joking around, and the sound questions had pretty much ended. It was us cutting up and just joking. I sent Kevin a link, and Kevin joined us too. So if you can imagine Curtis Judd, who always holds to about an hour on his streams like Kevin was trying to do, if you can imagine someone like Curtis who sticks to an hour, I kept him there for about 4.5 hours. Mm-hmm. I gave you more content of Curtis in one live stream than Curtis gives you an entire month. Yeah. So
that's cool.
So and that was one of the jokes that I had. I said, Curtis, you're never going to join me in another live stream again, because at the beginning of it, he was all fresh and awake and nice. After 4.5 hours, we all looked pretty like, beat, but we just couldn't stop the stream. It was really funny. We were all looking tired.
At what point in your prep do you decide to speak into the incorrect side?
That's a question for Kevin, kidding. Not me.
I don't know. I was drinking coffee with stupid juice or something. And I did this mic review of this toner mic. It's okay. I mean, for $69, you get a lot of stuff. So I post a video, I get up there, and I get downstairs, and I always do this. I always rewatch my videos a number of times. And I'm watching the video, and it occurs to me that unlike this mic, the toner mic, I've been speaking to it like this. And it's a side address mic.
Like this
and
one.
I'm doing this. And, hey, that actually sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. I love this mic. Anyway.
Yeah, it's an awesome one.
So then
I have mine right here.
Was like,
I have my hand literally on mine.
I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I just put in the comments, pinned it, the top of the description, everything else. Hey, all the data here is valid up until the test. And I linked Bandrew's review of this thing. And
but
I was
you know
like,
what's interesting?
Should I take it out? Should I leave it? Should I take it down? Should I? Yes, ethically, I should take it down. I should review it. And I decided
just
to leave it.
Microphone. Don't worry about
just to leave it. Because a number of subscribers got back to me. They were like, hey, you make mistakes. Leave it up, and people can see you're a real person. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Anyway, that was
if it was an Earthworks mic, if it was a Deity, if it was a Rode, if it was a brand that, you know, that would be where I would say, no, redo that one. But
hey, we got a question. Do boom operators work any other equipment besides boom pole recorder? Good question.
Boom operators don't technically operate the recorder. That's the sound mixer. Now, there's an exception. If you're an ENG or electronic news gathering sound mixer, which is a reality TV mixer or something like that, they'll carry a bag and they'll have a boom. That's an exception. You're not technically a boom operator, then you're an ENG mixer. But a boom operator is basically someone that will hold and operate the boom. So that's basically what I do. I'll have a transmitter at some point on me, or I'll go cabled in a rare circumstance. But for the most part, you know, that's what I will do. Now, we still do things other than just operate the boom pole. For example, we'll quiet a lot of noises. We'll silence the set. We'll, make sure that carpets are taped down on the ground so that way if background people or the actors are walking, we're not hearing their footsteps. If there's a dolly making noise, I'll address that with the dolly grips. That way they'll know to spray pledge on it and make it quiet. Or, there's a whole bunch of different things. If the wind is blowing a flag or something, then we'll have to take it and make it more taut, or maybe perhaps block the wind from hitting it, whatever the case may be. So we do operate and do other things other than just operate a boom, but we do not technically just operate a boom pole. We do other things as well. Now, usually a boom operator is considered to be a microphone placement technician. And because of that, we will plant microphones. We will also perhaps work with the utility in correcting lavs on set if they can't get to set for whatever reason, because they have a lot of tasks. Sound utilities are multitaskers like you have no idea. It's considered to be the entry-level position to the sound department, but there's a lot of responsibility. They have to be able to basically run the entire department or step in for the boom operator or sound mixer if they need a break, or the sound mixer gets a phone call, has to line up another show, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different things that and a boom operator may have to suddenly step up and fix lavs on set if the utility is doing mixing stuff, responsibilities, or if they had to run to the production office or something.
Sorry, we have another question for Robert Shaver, but I want to ask you a question. I had two, and I forgot one. Damn it. That I think may be helpful for everyone. Now, if you watch BTS behind the scenes, you'll see actors walking around, and you'll see these boom operators, unlike when I'm shooting freaking reverse stuff in the studio. It's sitting here at a fixed, usually if I were booming myself right now, the mic would be sitting out of here, out of frame. It would be sitting at approximately this angle, and I'd usually shoot it right about here because my mouth is moving around and it'll pick up everything. So I see these behind the scenes, and I see these boom operators. These mics, maybe it's something to do with the camera or whatever. It looks like these mics are 2, 3, 4 feet away from the talent.
Sometimes.
I'm thinking, 4 feet away, how do you get quality sound with that type of distance? Is it the mic?
Partially.
Okay.
It depends. It depends. Signal to noise ratio plays into it a lot. If I had a fan right next to me that's just like that, if I'm talking close, the same exact volume you're hearing me right now, you're going to hear that fan as the background noise quite a bit. If I back off on the microphone, you can't bring up my level very much before you're going to be hearing the fan more so than me if I back off on that microphone. Now, if I wanted to take this far enough away, 3 or 4 feet away, and still have you pick me up correctly, then it's got to be pretty quiet. Most of the time, sets are quiet. We have a very, very, there's soundproofing and there's sound absorbent material. Soundproofing is harder materials like concrete and metal that barricade off, and prevent sounds from going through there. Then you have to use softer things like the insole quills behind me and the audio blankets underneath that in order to actually isolate and absorb up any of the sounds that happen in your immediate environment. And between the combination of those two things and people being quiet on set, it will usually get very, very quiet, which is the reason why we will hear a little bitty noise that happens down a hall and say, that's got to shut down. And they're like, guys, I was listening to a video on my phone. Well, your headphones are up too loud. I heard it through your ears. And like, how could you hear that 40 feet away? It's my superpower. Please shut it off. And that's the kind of thing that you will hear when it is that quiet. You go into the quietest place in the entire world, and you would be surprised at what you hear. There are reports of people going into the Orfield Labs in Minneapolis, Minnesota, anechoic chamber that has a negative 9 dB noise floor, and people say that they hear the blood moving through their bodies, and it freaks them out. So if it is that quiet for you to hear things moving through your body. It's not quite as quiet as that on a set, but you can imagine how signal to noise ratio works. If it's very, very quiet, you can take a microphone farther away. Now, here's another thing about mics that a lot of people don't understand. Microphone specifications are actually tested at a distance of about 1 meter away from that microphone in an anechoic or virtual anechoic chamber. And so the microphone has the ability to pick up sounds at a distance away. Now, usually what will happen is you'll start to lack bass in that. As soon as you get farther away from a microphone, the bass frequencies start to go away, kind of going back to the whole power generation thing about the low sounds going omnidirectional that I talked about before, and the mids and highs are more directional. Same kind of thing happens with regards to microphone testing. So you can get a microphone 3 or so feet away from someone's mouth, and you're right where it was when it was tested. But then you also got to keep in mind that the farther away you are, you might have to play it a little bit differently depending on what sounds you're hearing. So there's a bit of a science, and there's a bit of a lot of technique that we have to use when thinking about how far away a microphone is going to be from talent.
Wow. You can talk a lot, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I have this occur to me when somebody starts talking about a YouTube channel or something. You have such a wealth of knowledge, and someone asks a simple question. It's so easy. I mean, you can't just go, yeah, do this. There's like so much around it and surrounding it. Like when I was watching one of your, maybe it was in a live stream or a video. No, I think I asked a question in one of your live streams. I was like, hey, what about shock mounts? About 40 minutes later, he was done talking about shock mounts, not because he was blah, blah, blahing, because he knows so much about it. I get behind in my questions. So much about it. It was this shock mount and that shock. This is why this and everything else. So it's like, thank you. And apparently
it's one of those things where a very simple thing can become a very big thing really quickly. It's not just the same as me saying, what's your favorite drink? And you say, oh, it's this. This is something that is very open-ended, and there's a lot of stuff that has to do with it. Let me tell you, I was talking about trolling earlier, and then we'll let you get back to another question. Here's something I did years ago as a joke. I picked one of my friends who is the most rabid right-wing person and the most rabid left-wing person I had that had zero tolerance for the other perspective. I called them both up real quickly as soon as I got the first person on the phone, and I quickly said, hold on one split second, I'm sorry. And I quickly switched over, called the other person, I connected them together, and I said, Obama. And then I hit mute. Oh, man. I was amused for an hour. They got so crazy. It was hilarious. Because it started, what about him? Well, what are you talking about? And they just started in. And it was like, best president ever, worst president ever. They just started going. It was, that was something I wish I would have recorded. That was the most amazing. I did not expect it to work. I did not expect it to work.
Next time?
I totally did not expect it to work, but it did. And it's like.
Next time I do a live stream, I don't know if I could do this and keep a straight face. I'm going to go, why these new cameras are the most important thing to have, and why you should just forget lighting and audio and just start and just watch the pandemonium
just
begin. Apparently, you're supposed to reach over,
they'll freak out
and slap me silly.
But it's the same kind of thing. You ask an open-ended question, tell me about a shock mount. Oh, this is the kind of thing I live for. That's the kind of thing that you're going to get out of someone that digs this stuff. So
I don't think it's just digging this stuff. I think you just have this vast amount of knowledge, and the question that's being asked is without a vast amount of knowledge. Like somebody comes in and goes, hey, do you think, like, I'm mounting my mic on my camera over there and I'm not good at getting good sound. Could you tell me about that? And I could say, well, don't do that. But then I'm like, yeah, well, you shouldn't do it. What you should do is have the mic closer to the mouth. Oh, and you should have it up here or up here. Oh, and you should have it on a separate audio recorder. And oh, yeah, when you sync sound and then I'm off, it sounds like I'm blah, blah, blah. It's really hard for me not to do that. Apparently, you're supposed to reach over this screen and slap Kevin silly. Go for it. Let's see if you do it the right way.
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, I know you're that direction.
Oh, well, go ahead and slap me silly. Do it.
Well, I mean, I would, but the microphone's in the way, and I don't want to hit my microphone.
Oh, good.
That's the only reason why you're safe, is because the microphone's between us. It's like, hold me back! Hold me back!
Thank you, microphone. To be honest, you knew we would scream to keep going. Actually, I didn't. To be honest, I thought people would finally go, oh, he's going to
Kevin needs to really understand a little bit more about live streams, apparently.
Wow.
You have to cut people off. You have to cut people off. I mean, usually the rule of thumb that I have is that there's a core amount of views that I usually have in my channel. The point that I will look at discontinuing the live stream is when the views are less than the viewers. I'm sorry, that would never happen. When the likes are less than the viewers. Usually I'll have like 12, 15 likes, something like that. And I'll have usually as high as like in the 30s. And then they'll start slowly dropping down as soon as I get into the 20s, as soon as it starts falling into the teens. And then I get no more engagement. Usually I'll start looking at it and I'll say, okay, well, that's when the engagement's usually going to start falling off. As soon as I stop receiving questions constantly, that's when I usually start to tailor it.
That's for
taper it off.
Main channel. I mean, this whole channel here, it's called Unscripted because it's cowboy land. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Sultan. Hello, son. The rule of thumb. The shorter the lens, the further away you need to boom. The longer the lens, the closer you can boom. Is this true?
It depends. That's the thing, because it's not just about the lens length and the focal length. It's also about the lights and where those are. Some DPs will put lights right there on set, and they'll barely make room for the camera to fit through, in which case you have to be farther away, even on tighter shots, in order to get up and around, over a light, over the camera, what have you. It's, sometimes they'll put these big open sources. Some of the better DPs I know will even light the room, and then the actors will basically be able to move anywhere in there. You could be anywhere you want to pretty much in the room. And in that case, there's been times when I have literally, in the middle of a take, I could touch the top of an actor's head because they're right next to me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes they're farther away, and I've only been able to boom them from farther away, even when the camera's like this. So it just depends on a lot of different elements on set, how they're lighting, how many people are in there. If they're doing a lighting cue, there's going to probably be an electrician sitting down on set, either calling it in, say, now, or something over their walkie. Or if they have a Variac, they could start dialing in the level at a certain point, and they take their own cue. And in that case, they're sitting down, they have this entire world, and they're occupying 2 by maybe 3.5 feet in size of prime real estate on set. They have to see the actors. Oh, well, it's very critical. They have to see it. Why do they have to be on set when you could set them up on a monitor? Well, because they're taking their cue from action. Yeah, it's going to be on the monitor. They should be able to see that. Well, there's a timing delay. Yeah, is your electrician really going to be affected by about a 1/10 of a second delay? Do they really need to be standing sitting here under my feet as I'm moving a microphone around? Because I can't do my job offset. If I step off set, you have no sound unless you're going by lavs or plans. But an electrician, they'll sometimes there'll be a director's monitor right behind me. I'll be booming. We'll do 3 rehearsals, and then they say, okay, let's go. Oh, the director wants to be on set. They'll put their monitor right behind where I am because they'll see that as a space. I'm like, that's the headache zone. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I back up, I hit the director. I don't want that to happen. And I have all these jokes. I'll say, oh no, you can't be there. I don't want to get fired. Because I don't want to accidentally hit the director and get fired. And that's a joke. But at the same time, I've been on sets before where take 3, take 4, take 5, then suddenly take 6 will happen. Someone that was not behind me, a stills photographer or something, I back up and I slam into their lens. And I'm like, where were you before? Oh, I just moved. Okay, you didn't know where I was.
Do you find that, like, when I'm behind the camera, I'm sorry, I never paid attention to everybody else. I just go and looked at the frame, and all was good, and everybody did all that stuff. And if I had paid attention, I might have learned something. That cocky bastard. Do you find from a continuity standpoint, if I'm taking, let's say I'm sitting here in a close-up, and I'm booming close, and then next I have, let's say, a medium shot, and I'm booming far away, do you, from an audio continuity, do you go, okay, I'm just going to get the mics in as close as I can to pick up the audio, and in post, these guys will deal with all that? Or is there a continuity aspect to booming of like, okay, if I got a medium shot and I got the mic 2 feet above the people and I got this close-up shot, I'm going to keep the mic 2 feet away from the people to keep a continuity in the audio. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a great question. You're talking about perspective sound. Correct. And that is something that is it depends on the mixer. I've worked for mixers before that tell me once you start a scene with a microphone, you don't change that microphone. Other mixers will say, no, if this is a specialty thing, then by all means, change out to a longer microphone because we need it for the wide. There's other mixers that will say, when we go to a really, really tight shot, I want to get it on this one mic because it's going to be better for that. You know, the mouth crispies, for example. You put a shotgun microphone on someone 2 feet away that you need to do that for a scene, it's going to sound nice and full because it's picking up chest, mouth, and head. But as soon as you move in really, really close and the shot becomes like a haircut, and you put the microphone right here, all you're getting is those mouth crispies and the mids and stuff coming straight from their mouths. You're not getting a whole lot of that bass anymore. So then you could end up backing away, or you could change that to another mic that's going to pull out that better. There's different mixers and different schools of thoughts on this. If you are doing a wide and a tight, usually you're going to try to push the frame and get the microphone as close as possible. If you do a wide by itself and then you do a medium and tight together, then you can punch in there too. Now, some mixers I've worked with, like the mixer I worked with on Stranger Things and Walking Dead, he was big into perspective. He said that if I were to, that if we go from a medium shot to a tight shot, I want it to sound roughly the same. It's going to make it easier for post to adjust it. I've worked for other mixers, though, like the one I'm currently working with or going to be working with again on Black Lightning. He says always, get the microphone closer. Post can make it sound like it's farther away, but it's going to have better detail and better signal to noise ratio. So it depends on the mixer and what they want. My style generally will be that I listen to the environment. If it's a noisier environment, I'm going to definitely push the frame more. And I'm going to make sure that it sounds good and balanced between the mids, the wide shots, the mediums, and the tights.
Nice.
But that depends. There's a lot of depends.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it both ways. I was just wondering your perspective. I've seen it just keep the mic away. And then also I've seen where people are concerned about if I'm going into a really tight shot, I want a really tight mic because we're going to use that audio. Because if I'm standing, 50 feet away talking to someone, I want the perception of that depth. Whereas if I'm now going to a, haircut shot, I want the perception
and that's
of
a
the
good
depth
question
of the
too.
person being moved in.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. If you're talking about zooming in from a 400 mil lens and the background is completely out of focus versus being right in front of someone's face on a 15 mil, and you see the background is completely in focus and that kind of thing. We have a rule in the sound department. You make it sound like it looks. That's the goal.
Right.
So if someone, if it was left up to me and the background is completely out of focus and we're only doing tight shots and the background was completely out of focus because of a long lens, I don't need to hear anything in the background. So at that point, I'm going to get a microphone that would dial more in on the closeness of their face. If I were then getting someone that was the microphone was, or the camera was really close to someone's face and it's wide and you see a whole bunch of background people walking around and stuff because it's a wide shot in the background. And at that point, the field of view is picking up people much wider and they're more in focused. Then at that point, I would probably dial in on some sort of a microphone that would bring out a little bit of that, but not too much. Just my personal things, because I'm more of one of those people that will look at the scene and I will see what it requires and what I think it should sound like in post. So they have to do as little processing as possible. Some mixers will say it's got to be this way. Use this microphone all the time. You can't ever change. Use this microphone and push the frame. Can't ever change. This microphone and don't push the frame too much. I don't want that proximity of sound on this mic, but I love this mic. Can't change. Some mixers will say, I trust you. Do what it takes.
So if I'm shooting, wait a second. Bandrew, I'm going to take the role of dad here. With the amount of time you've been arguing about ending the stream and the amount of comments you have, you could have answered all the questions and ended. Thanks, Dad.
You're right.
Definitely.
It's like a soccer game.
Stealing your freaking stuff when I come visit you, but don't tell you before I come visit you.
It's like a soccer game. You know how they don't stop the timer? You have 45 minutes, first half and second half. You only have 45 minutes. But as soon as they basically, kick the ball out and they have to throw it in, someone is sitting there saying, okay, that's another 16 seconds. There's another 15 seconds. There's another whatever. By the time you remove all the time that Kevin and I have been arguing, we're in penalty or in overtime that amounts to a good another hour, even though the stream was only an hour to begin with.
To be fair, we clipped along. We had that hour. We went along. Everybody said, hey, not everybody. A couple people were like, hey, keep going. We don't care. Just keep going. Keep going. And we are. So after that hour, all bets are off, man. I have a question.
Okay.
Well, from your viewpoint, I know what I would do. Especially for people watching. Let's say I'm shooting a long shot. Let's say we're downtown or whatever. Mm-hmm. We're by a barn or something, and I'm shooting, maybe very wide shot. Two people
You're shooting
walking,
a baby. Got it.
They're talking. Yeah. I really try and not use terms in case there's people here and then
suddenly click in here. I'm going to see what this live stream about. I'm going to be shooting a baby. Oh, I'm clicking off of that one right now. Yeah. That's actually one of the rules of radio. You don't say any sentence that if someone cut in the middle of it, that they would say, oh, panic, right. panic, because, you have to word things certain ways.
It's the basic filmmaker channel. I could, maybe not everyone, but I bet you there's a lot of people here I could bury in terms and words and stuff, as could you and Bandrew and everybody else. So I try and keep it simple. Anyway, my question. You're sitting here, there's a barn, you're shooting a baby. Okay. You're shooting a wide shot. Now, I've seen it done a number of ways where what they do is obviously they lapel the person or they plant or whatever. All sorts of terms for this. I've also seen it where they'll have a boom up following the people around, making sure he's doing his thing and making sure he gets good audio off the shotgun mic. And then they'll take a plate shot. That's a shot without the people in it. It's just sitting there static. And then they'll just carve out the boom up following them around. Do you, for basic people, I'm going to shoot a shot of someone, a wide shot. I want really good audio of these two people talking. What do you suggest? Would you have someone boom them? Would you do lapel mics? Like, what would you suggest to somebody going, how do they get that awesome audio while those people apparently are 30 yards away? Lapels? Lavs?
Well, I hate having to say depends again, but it really does depend. Because, here's why. Because a wide shot that's just going to be used for a quick 1 or 2 seconds, actors are usually pretty consistent with their lines. So I could very easily, if I were in post, and I've done this on my YouTube channel a whole lot, where I consistently say something over and over again, but then all of a sudden, there was something that happened visually and I had to change something up. But what I was able to do is take my audio from another place and repair it. Like sometimes when I've recorded in the middle of the day, a garage door will go off and my studio is right above the garage. And that's something that will transmit through. So what I've ended up doing is taking another audio recording that I've done where that piece of it was perfect, and I have slipped it in there and stretched and aligned it so that way it would match perfectly. Post will do that too. But if you're talking about a shot where like it's like this, and then it suddenly cuts to a wide shot, post could end up still use that same close-up audio. They could, if they wanted to, switch to a lav if they want to, depending on where they're going to go next. If it's a medium shot and then it cuts into a close-up shot, and in the middle of that, there's going to be a wide shot. They may just leave it on the wide shot or the medium shot audio, cut to the wide shot, still use the medium shot audio, and then when they cut into the close-up, suddenly it sounds closer. There's an art and a science to that too. Now, if you were doing it for your own project, I have a video called The Invisible Boom. So if you do a search for sound speeds, The Invisible Boom, you'll find the video. And it was one of the first videos I did on the channel 3 years ago when we talked all about that exact technique and how you do it, the protocol for it. If you were inside of your studio where light is, for example, constant, you're not going to have an issue with it. If you're exterior and there's bugs flying around, there's falling leaves because it's fall, there's potential light changes because, you know, a shadow could cross a light or across the sun or something like that. It's going to change your light levels. It's going to change your shadows, and you can't do something like that then. There's different rules that you have to follow in order to make sure you can do something like that. Now, I use that technique, we use that technique, I should say, on Stranger Things. There are certain times that there would be a wide shot. Like, for example, in season 2 was the season that I did. There's a scene where Eleven is walking around in the woods, and she comes across a guy in the woods, and she has to, I think, get some clothes off of him or get some of his gear or something like that. And she ends up, you know, spoiler alert, she ends up doing something, I'll just say, in order to get some of his supplies. There is a shot that we set up for, a wide shot. We were underneath the canopy of trees. And I looked at that and I said, hey, can we do a plate and have me drop the boom in there? Yeah, no problem. Don't see a reason why we couldn't. We had a VFX guy on set every single day for that show. He would say, yep, no problem. So they would set up for a wide shot. They would just lock it off. And then at the same time, we were going in for a tight, I think, on 11. So I was booming her from behind slightly to the side. But you would never know it for the quick second and a half you see that wide shot, because they're not going to be looking at, and the show that's currently on Stars, P-Valley. The last episode that aired, there was a shot of a guy without wearing a shirt. He had no shirt on, and he's talking to another guy, and their feet are dangled in a drained pool. Well, I have a picture I could show you of me actually standing in that frame, and they posted out. They removed it, even though it was exterior. There was not a cloud in the sky, so it was a beautiful day, and easily I just had to step out of the shot. Once we were rolling, they got their plate. I step in there, and I just make sure that my shadow does not fall on any of the actors, and they can easily take care of that for the quick second. Yeah. So it just depends on what's going on. Yeah.
People, I never know who's watching or what skill ability's watching. We're going to move on to these other questions because I'm way behind. A plate shot. If I were sitting here, let me do it this way. If I were sitting here like this, and I was filming myself and recording this, I could go blah, 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 blah. Then I could take another shot. The background's not moving. Nothing's happening. And I could move out of where I would be. It's not going to work so well. As long as I didn't move the mic. And I film myself again, talking to myself. Then I would just totally leave the shot. I'd get the chair out. And then all I would have is the background, assuming the focus didn't change. Right. So a plate shot basically is that back shot, meaning I can mask myself out half here. I can mask myself out half here. Yep. And the back is just sitting there. In other words, if I shot myself against a wall talking, and there's a boom up here, in the frame, then what would happen is I would go away, the boom operator would go away, they'd leave the camera rolling, and then we would just mask me out and leave what's behind the back wall there. That's a correct shot. Anyway,
there's two factors I'll throw in there, but go ahead.
Well, I was just going to move on to the next comment. So
okay. Real quick, I'll say something. In your background, for example, you have a lot of reflections. Your lights are, for example, reflecting off of your cup right now. It reflects off of your silver play button and the edge of your picture frames, your guitars. So if you disappear, then and you having to plate around that, your reflection could be in the middle of a light or causing a shadow or something to appear that you have to watch for if you're dialing that out. Another thing to think about is something called radiosity, which I'm sure you're a camera guy, so you know this. That if you bounce a light, if I'm wearing a bright red shirt and my background is white and there's a light that's more focused in from, let's say, the back right side, it's going to create a bounce light effect off of my shirt that's going to change the color of the background. And if I move, it's going to change that light level too. So you have to watch bounce light levels and that kind of thing too to make sure the light doesn't change on your background. I'm sorry?
Yeah, even my studio, if you look, it's not that way. Like I have this fake cloth brick wall. If I were standing there playing, I'm going to talk to myself, and then I stand it the other way, I'm going to talk to myself. What would happen is there might be shadows or reflections or something going on in the background. And if I start messing with them. Anyway, I didn't want to get too complicated, but I did want to look at this from Rob. So a shoulder mounted counter-weighted boom with a handle is a good idea?
Well, here's the thing. If you started putting something on your shoulders, you're going to be hindering your movement and ability to actually move. They make harnesses. If you watch a video that I made called, do a search for SoundSpeed's Boom Swinger or Boom Buddy, and you're going to see that I actually test out a product that I really believe in. I love this thing, but it is an option that people have without spending $8,000 for an exo vest or something along those lines. That would be it's designed for mechanics to go up underneath cars, and it supports your arms by holding up on it. You're strapping yourself into this thing, and it holds your arms by adding assisted lift. But they're making and modifying some of that kind of stuff for boom operators because of the longer takes we're doing. If they were to take something along those lines and put that on, you're still, even though it's low profile, you're going to potentially hit a wall and make a noise. You're going to have a piston that's hanging out or a piece of metal that's going to be coming out at a certain point, and it's going to hit a wall or hit something. And so you have a bigger area that you have to be aware of when you're moving around, that kind of thing. So an idea of a counterweighted boom as a general rule, I wouldn't want, because you don't always need to have a counterweight just because you have a weight coming out there. There you go. Another video that I did. How much weight does a boom operator carry? I tested it with a scale, went out with a luggage scale, put different microphones on the end of poles at different lengths, and we weighed it and saw how much weight, like a 4-ounce microphone setup, would actually turn into 12 pounds. We did this. I did this in a video. It was just do a search for SoundSpeed's boom weight or just weight, and you'll probably find it. And you don't always want to just have a solid counterweight, because then it would be too much upward pressure. The point you would want a counterweight that would be on that is if it was out a certain amount of distance, because that counterweight, even if it's only a pound or two, has got to counter a whole lot of weight on the other end. And at that point, it's basically to bring back the center weight closer to the middle. If you have a pole that's extended out 6 feet and it's an indoor little bitty lightweight microphone, if you put a counterweight on that, you're going to be like, oh, geez, this thing is heavy. And that microphone's going to want to hit the ceiling. So you don't need to always have a counterweight.
Cool. Next we have, do you bring your own boom to a set, or is there one there when you get there? Good question. Usually sound mixers will have a boom pole for you to use if you don't have one. What I usually say is, if you were to have to pick between two people to build you a deck at the house, one of them said, and their prices, let's just say, were almost the exact same, but one guy's $500 more. And you start to look at it and say, well, why is this guy $500 more and this guy is here $500 less? And you start to look at it, and one guy, the cheaper of the two, says, yeah, I can do it. I have all the skills to do it. I'm insured. Do you have a saw? Do you have a hammer? Do you have a drill I could use? All that kind of stuff. And then you have another guy who's a little bit more expensive, but he has all the gear that he needs to do his job. Who are you most likely going to hire? The guy with his own gear. Now, it is not really that way in the sound world, being that as long as you have a boom pole and you're a skilled boom operator, you can use technically any gear that's there. You know how to do it. One of my the most amazing boom operators ever, Don Sufel, who died either earlier this year or late last year,
he was a 40-year plus veteran of boom operator, and he was amazing. This man brought boom operating to another level when he started back, decades ago. But when he would go to set, he didn't have his own gear. He would say, I'll use your pole, I'll use your whatever. He didn't care about it. Me, on the other hand, I have a lot of things that I like to have a certain way. And because I want to have consistency on one show to another, just like Kevin was saying earlier, where you don't want to have to worry about a cable, you don't want to have to worry about a cheap light and making the thing work. You want to have certain gear that you can always count on. I'm very much that way. So I carry my own gear with me. If a sound mixer has something that I like better or that's the same thing, sure, I'll use theirs, no problem. Because if it breaks, it's on them, it's not on me. Or if the wear and tear, I'll let that happen on them too. But if it's my own gear, I want a rental on it. And if it's not going to be on rental, then I'm going to try to convince the sound mixer to rent my gear from me, or I'm going to at least put it on their insurance if it's a shorter show. And I'm going to be completely brutal about anything that breaks. It's not going to be a wear and tear thing. If one of my things breaks on the show, they're going to be replacing it.
Yeah.
I'll make sure of that.
Plant mics? I don't know what that's in.
That is a microphone that you place someplace on a set to pick up sound.
Plant.
Yeah. It's like, it would be like if I had this background and I needed, and if this microphone was not picking me up when I turned my head back this direction, then I could end up having a little, like you would see that right there. You wouldn't see it somewhere right around here. I could maybe hide another microphone that would be barely out of the frame right there and plant it. So that way the sound mixer would catch me going this way. And if my boom was shadowing the wall or something like that, as soon as the person transitions and looks this direction, the mixer would start playing off of that plant mic.
I've seen someone come in and go, hey, do you mind? We want to plant a mic just to be sure. Sounds going to be cool. We want to plant a mic. Is it okay if you have this setup here? Is it okay? Literally, is it okay if we put like a little plant in the scene? Like a literal plant. And, go ahead, put it in there. That looks fine. And then they'll actually plant a little mic in the plant. Just to
and I've done that. Covered. If they have papers on a desk, I'll put a microphone underneath that and I'll say, can I move this here? Can I move this here? Anytime you plant something, you want to confirm it with the camera operator because it could be there for a reason. But there was even there was a wide shot we did on Stranger Things when Lucas ran out of his house and he goes running, and our microphone, because we had background noise, it was too much. He could run out and he could run into the frame, but when he got closer, it could play off of me. But we wanted to have a microphone that sounded closer until we punched in for coverage for that wide shot. And because there was a pile of leaves on the ground, I looked at it and said, what's that pile of leaves there for? And they said, it's covering up a grate that's on the ground that's more modern. I said, could I get another pile of leaves over here? And they said, yeah, no problem. And so I talked to the camera operators. They did that too. So when you see the shot in like episode 202 or 203 or something like that, Lucas comes running out of his house. And when he's doing it, you'll see a pile of leaves right down there in the front of his house. I had my microphone hiding right behind that. But it looks the same because it was fall and they had piles of leaves raked up everywhere. And so I'll do things like that as I'll work with the other departments to make sure, like I said before, they don't need me to do their job. I need them to help me do mine. And that was one of the circumstances where the on-set dresser or greensman would help to make a little pile of leaves for me that would look cool for the shot as well, but also work well for me hiding my microphone.
Hey, this is interesting. I haven't done anything. I did try and adjust the sound earlier and stuff, but now your voice is in sync.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
See, this is YouTube person rewarding you for doing a longer stream, Kevin.
This is an interesting question from Robert. What are you doing when room tone is being recorded? I know what the answer is, but this is a good question. How would you know?
Nothing.
Well, I mean,
everything makes noise. Every single thing makes noise, so everyone has to freeze. Now, what am I doing as a boom operator? You have that microphone square up and down, or if you were using it at an angle for the entire scene, then duplicate that angle. But it wants to match the way that it was in the scene, and if you were doing a cue this way and then a cue this way, split the difference. Usually it's straight up and down, but you hold it high in the middle of the room to pick up the actual tone of the room with people in there. If they say, let's clear off the set, move the dolly out, no, that has to stay. Why? Because it was in the room when we did the scene.
Right.
Everything in the room, affects the sound, the way the waves bounce, the way everything is. So room tone has to be with the actors in there where they were standing, with the director or dolly grip or anybody who was in that room. You just say, all right, freeze everyone, rolling room tone, throw the microphone up there, usually square, and you freeze. You don't move and you do absolutely nothing. Sometimes people will be like, it's the end of the day, and they're dancing, and that's when signal to noise ratio, it's quiet. You hear every little bitty sound magnified and amplified. At that point, that's when you're going to hear all this moving clothing noise, this sound. And you're like, stop moving. And that's when you'll see, me glaring at people. I'm like, look, you don't see me shining a laser pointer through your establishing shots. Don't dance during my room tone.
It's interesting. I heard a little doing or something. I think that's on your end or something. And now your voice went out of sync. So it ain't on my end. It ain't on his end. It's frickin' Skype. So take that. Anyway,
very possible.
Can you use a drone for sound gathering? Of course, then Sunrise says you need to invent a silent drone.
Correct.
First. Sure.
No, we don't really have that ability just yet. If you had a directional enough microphone, you could potentially do it if it was a long enough cable coming from the drone, but you're talking about a lot of weight on that thing. Yeah. One exception that I've actually thought of is if I were trying to get sound in, for example, an ocean, and if I were dropping a hydrophone into water and I couldn't drop it, within the first 15 or 20 feet from the dock that I'm standing at. If I wanted it farther out, I could potentially maybe put a drone out there and drop it into the water. But then what happens if the fish grabs the end of the hydrophone that's pulling your drone under? So, I mean, there's ways, I guess, and things that you could consider that would be possible, but don't do a drone. Come on.
Wow, dude.
Don't bring out something that's noisy with a bunch of little fans on it to record sound. No, don't do that.
Well, we're at 2 hours and 12 minutes. Well done. Now,
okay, here's one thing I will say, Kevin.
I did say I was going to cut off in an hour. Everybody wanted to continue. You got it. We also have a question, which I
will say one thing real quick. In about 15 minutes, I do have to run because I have to go and pick up something from somebody at 3.
Then let's rip through these comments and end the stream.
Okay.
I got, how did they boom in an action scene like when the actors are running and yelling out their lines? Great question.
It could be that they're on a lav. It depends. If there's a close-up shot of the actor, then with a Steadicam or a handheld camera that's running with them, they're going to end up using the audio from that. And if nothing else, then we will always say, if they were doing a wide shot and a tight and we couldn't get a boom in there, then we can always say, let's do a wild line with the actor. So we'll have the actors kind of jogging in place, yelling out the line, and the microphone's right on top of them, and they'll just roll a few of those just for us.
And cool, Mark says exactly that. Follow up to Jack's question, for ultra-wides, do you also do wild takes to fill those in when a lav isn't an option, and how often is there dialogue coverage, if that makes sense? It totally makes sense, what he just said. How about that?
They'll use the close-up audio from it. If not, they'll use the lav. If not, get a wild.
Yep. How do you avoid the pitfalls of being that boom operator? I'm going to just answer this. Experience. You beat me to it.
I mean, you got to keep in mind that you're on set for 12 plus hours a day with people. You got to be the kind of person, I usually try to be the kind of person on set that people would want to be near. And that people don't dread, oh, geez, it's him.
Absolutely.
I would much rather be the kind of person that someone says, I haven't seen him in a while. Hey, Allan, how's it going, man? And is happy to see me. I've been grumpy on, coming in the morning and just not the least bit happy. And then, this is 3 months in, and then everyone in the world, hey, good morning, Allan. Oh, you're not happy. All right. Well, hey, I wanted to say hello anyway. And after a bunch of people do that, I'll end up cheering up. But
totally.
It's one of those things where it's what you bring to set too. Think about people skills, think about customer service, use all of those skills you have, and try to be the person they would want to see on set, not the person they have to see on set.
Yeah, and they also have, from Selton, rooms for boom operator. There's many. Make sure you're out of the way. Go to rehearsals and understand the blocking. Blocking is, for instance, if I were going to shoot a scene and I had actor 1 walking in, then I have actor 2 walking in, they're going to talk. Then they're going to move to this back table. They're going to talk. Then they're going to move over to this position over here. That's blocking out a scene. The boom operator, the camera operators, the guys in those, I won't get technical, those little carts that are following them, they all need to know what this blocking is and where people are going to end up. Alfred Hitchcock was great at that. Next question. Sorry, I didn't even let you answer. How about that? Allan, is there ever any use of dual boom operators during filming?
Absolutely. The cast count could be big, and it could be people talking, this person over here and this person over here. I might need to have two booms on it because I can't swing it fast enough. I'll almost always throw out two booms. If there's someone close and then someone farther away, I may have to do it then. If there's two people that are arguing over each other, it isolates and allows you to use isolation techniques where you can cue two microphones away from each other. One mic gets one guy, one mic gets another guy. They can throw it through Isotope RX, and they can isolate the microphone from this person's mic, and vice versa, to help them with cutting it together when they post it. So yes, there's absolutely a use for second booms. Some mixers will say they want everything. They want a second boom out for the off-camera dialogue. Some people like to just send post variations. Other mixers will say, I only want to concentrate on what we see on camera, because actors don't give their full performance when they're not on camera. So I don't want that off-camera dialogue to be anything that post has an option of. So there's different schools of thoughts, and that's all up to the mixer. And if they don't care, up to the boom operator. If I can throw a second boom in there over something to make my life a little easier so I don't have to swing fast for a line and then swing instantly quickly back and potentially miss it, I will throw a boom operator in for that.
What?
Second boom.
That purple stuff that Allan is eating. It is basically crack to me. This is called Zip Fizz. It's something that I absolutely love. It's basically, it's natural. It's got what is this thing? Guarana seed extract, green tea leaf extract, green coffee bean extract, grape seed extract, grape seed or B12 or something like that,
it's a bunch of vitamins. It's a bunch of vitamins, and it's got 104,167% of your daily dose of B12.
Yeah, it keeps you from dying when you're working 12, 16 hours a day. What about avoiding boom mic shadows in the shot? Have you asked for a lighting change to help that? That's interesting.
If it's necessary, I will. I will usually try every technique or every trick I can in being a different place that I possibly can to avoid that from happening. It would be one of those things that if the DP is front lighting everything, I will say, can you help me out here? Because I've got to get a microphone in. And then I will hopefully get a little bit of assistance with that. It could be that a flag with the key grip can handle it. It could be that maybe, it's actually kickoff of another light, and they could say I can kill that one, like a can light in the ceiling. Or you might have, sometimes you'll have a piece of gel that's bouncing off, that's not placed properly, and it's actually catching a reflection and is causing a hot spot on the set. Well, DPs also will appreciate that if you can help them, by sighting that off so it's not reflecting onto their set. Sometimes, I'll catch things that I know a DP is going to want to address, and I'll ask for it for me because it'll be driving me crazy, and I'll say, oh, you're going to see a reflection of me unless it's sighted off. So I'll ask for if that could be sighted. They'll say, yeah. Oh, actually, I didn't even realize that was bleeding onto my set. Oh, well, good call. So
hey, this is a good place. Sultan, thank you so much for giving us a priceless answers we all need. You're welcome. This is a good time to end. Real
quick, I'll tell you this. I usually once a week do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say once a week, usually I do a live stream. And usually it's around Tuesday or Wednesday. My new release comes out on Monday. Sometimes it's Monday night. Usually it's Tuesday night. That gives me a chance to actually, recover and stuff mentally from pulling an overnighter and editing all night Monday until Monday morning. So if you ever go to my channel and you see a live stream, feel free to ask me any and all questions, and I'll stay there usually until the questions stop.
And go subscribe to his channel. There's a wealth of knowledge, as you noticed. The number of, go see that video. There's a lot there. There's pieces there. Just go check out his channel. If you need XLR cables, do it. Thank you for donating. Thank you all for being freaking awesome and hanging out with us, as usual. Thanks for being members of the university and watching our channels and all that other stuff. I can't express how much we as creators appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with us and watch our videos and everything else. Allan, thank you so much.
Pleasure, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
Time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Anytime.
Yeah. And again, go subscribe to his channel. And we're probably going to just hit the outro trailer like right now. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Allan. We'll see you next time.